This is going to be one of, if not the best offensive teams in the league, this Laker roster. When you look at what they went out and did, Sandro Mamu, like one of the best shooting bigs in the game, like him matching with Kessler Walker, right? Yeah. His ability to stretch the floor. And so when you think about Quentin Grimes, this team is going to make the playoffs.
What does an NBA franchise look like after it completely reinvents itself in a single offseason? 4 weeks ago.
Hachimura got a three. That's 3 first-quarter triples for Hachimura.
The Lakers walked off the court after getting swept in the second round, rolling out a starting five of LeBron James, Rui Hachimura, DeAndre Ayton, Marcus Smart, and Austin Reaves. A few hours later, everyone knew the same thing they'd known for a while. This team wasn't built to win a championship. Fast forward 1 month. 4 of those 5 starters, gone. This wasn't the usual off-season shuffle. Add a guy here, lose a guy there, hope it's enough to move the needle. What happened in Los Angeles this summer was closer to a full organizational reset. The kind that only happens when a franchise decides it's done tiptoeing around a problem it's been avoiding for years. One era ended. A new one started. And the Lakers spent the summer making you can understand what the Lakers built. You have to understand what they lost. Because the departures tell you everything about the direction they've chosen. On June 30th, roughly 6 hours before teams could even begin contacting outside free agents, LeBron James informed the Lakers he would be finishing his career elsewhere. And with that, 8 seasons in Los Angeles came to a quiet, close 8 seasons. The longest consecutive stretch he'd ever spent with one franchise. A championship in 2020, the 17th banner in Lakers history. Somewhere along the way, he passed everyone to become the all-time leading scorer in NBA history while wearing purple and gold. And last season at 41 years old, he was still producing 20.9 points on 51% shooting, 7.2 assists, 6.1 rebounds. He led the team in fast break scoring, topped the roster in paint points and finished second in assists. In the playoffs, his numbers actually climbed. 23.2 points, 7.3 assists, 7 rebounds. Dragging the Lakers through a first-round win over Houston before Oklahoma City swept them in the second round, losing him drops the short-term ceiling. But structurally, it changed everything. At this stage of his career, LeBron's timeline no longer matched the direction the franchise needed to go. His exit created something the Lakers hadn't had in years, real financial flexibility. The question was what they would do with it. But LeBron wasn't the only one leaving. Marcus Smart declined his player option and walked to Houston in free agency. His stat line, 9.3 points, 3 assists, 1.4 steals, doesn't tell you what he actually meant to this team. With Smart on the floor, the Lakers outscored opponents by 256 points on the year. Without him, they got outscored by 112. That kind of swing almost never shows up in traditional statistics. He was the point-of-attack defender, the one who drew the toughest assignment every single night. Kevin Durant, Kawhi Leonard, SGA in the second round. Lose him and you've lost the defensive backbone of the entire perimeter. Then there was Luka Dončić, who arrived at the trade deadline and immediately became one of the most reliable offensive weapons off the bench. Gone. And Rui Hachimura, who signed a 2-year deal with the Clippers. A departure that stings differently because of familiarity. He already knew the system and had built real chemistry with the team's primary creators. Add it all up and the Lakers lost their best shooter in Knecht, their best perimeter defender in Smart, their most efficient forward in Hachimura, and their franchise cornerstone in LeBron, all in one summer. On the surface, that looks like a teardown. But none of those moves happened in a vacuum. Every single one of them was about clearing space for one thing. Even before LeBron made it official, the direction was clear. The moment Luka Dončić arrived in Los Angeles, this became his franchise. Once LeBron walked, there was no ambiguity left. When you build around a player like Luka Dončić, keeping him productive and happy becomes the entire job description. And Luka had already made his needs clear. He needed a high-level center who could dominate in pick and roll. He needed perimeter defenders to cover his weaknesses on that end. He needed consistent, three-point shooting to open up his passing lanes. And he needed secondary scorers to take some of the offensive burden off his shoulders. That was the exact checklist Rob Pelinka set out to complete. And once LeBron's exit cleared more than $50 million in cap space, they had the financial runway to chase all of it. Free agency opened. The market took off. The Lakers sat on their hands. Then, in roughly 35 minutes on a Walker Kessler, the center Luka always needed of everything the Lakers did this offseason, one move towered above the rest. For years, center had been the one hole they simply could not fill. Luka knew it. The front office knew it. Every fan watching knew it. The Lakers worked out a sign-and-trade with Utah for Walker Kessler, sending 2 future first-round picks in 2031 and 2033 plus draft swaps in 2028 and 2030, then handed him a 4-year, $130 million contract. That is a massive bet. So what exactly are they paying for? Last season was mostly lost. A torn labrum limited Kessler to just 5 games before season-ending surgery. You have to go back to 2024-25 to see the real picture. That year, he averaged 11.1 points on 66% shooting, 12.2 rebounds and 2.4 blocks per night. Per advanced tracking, he ranked in the 97th percentile in rim deterrence, the 90th in rim disruption, and the 99th in rim protection. On offense, he graded in the 89th percentile as a screen setter and the 90th in roll man possessions. In short, elite rim protection. A lob threat who punishes defenses vertically, and a screen setter who creates advantages for everyone around him. Basically the exact center Luka Dončić has always played his best basketball alongside. For years, Luka turned rim-running bigs into monsters through the pick and roll. Now he gets one of the best interior presences in the league as his partner, and it works in both directions. Kessler covers many of Luka's defensive vulnerabilities, while Luka hands Kessler the easiest looks he has ever received. The price was steep. 2 firsts and 2 swaps for a player coming off major surgery is a real gamble. But the Lakers weren't paying for who Kessler is today. They were paying for who they are betting he becomes. At 24 years old, he fits perfectly alongside Luka and Austin Reaves and gives LA a long-term answer at center for the first time in years. Quentin Grimes. All of this came with a significant bill, the Kessler deal alone. 2 first-round picks, 2 swaps, and 4 years at $130 million is an enormous commitment for a player with 1 full breakout season and 1 major surgery on his resume. And the financial picture beyond that is equally significant. The Lakers are now committed to Luka Dončić, Austin Reaves, and Walker Kessler for somewhere around $475 million over the coming years. They walked into free agency with more than $50 million in cap space. They spent nearly all of it. The DeAndre Ayton trade recovered a little breathing room with Jaden Hardy and a couple of second-round picks, but not enough to meaningfully reshape anything. More critically, there is barely anything left to trade. No tradable first-round picks beyond 1 remaining slot, 3 second-rounders. And there are still real gaps on this roster, a backup center and another defensive wing among them. Meanwhile, look at the competition. Oklahoma City and San Antonio both improved this offseason while holding on to the majority of their future assets. Unlike those franchises, the Lakers have already shoved nearly all of their chips to the center of the table, which means this bet has to hit. This is Rob Pelinka's first roster built entirely in the post-LeBron era. It rides heavily on Kessler becoming the player they believe he can be. If he develops into an elite defensive anchor and pick-and-roll partner for Luka, this offseason could define the next era of Lakers basketball. If he does not, they are short the draft capital and financial flexibility needed to dig out quickly. That is the gamble, and there is no taking it back. Perimeter depth with Smart and Kennard gone, the backcourt needed immediate attention. The answer was Quentin Grimes on a 4-year, $60 million deal. Last season, Grimes played 75 games and averaged 13.4 points, 3.6 rebounds and 3 assists on 45% shooting. He dropped 20-plus points in 15 different games, including a 31-point performance against Portland. The 3-point percentage at 33.4% won't excite anyone, but the scoring ability will. More importantly, he already has real history with Luka. Back in Dallas, the Mavericks posted 120.7 points per 100 possessions, when both of them shared the floor. Small sample, but that chemistry is exactly what the Lakers are banking on. He also brings youth, defensive flexibility, and the ability to guard at the point of attack, taking on a portion of what Smart used to handle. Colin Sexton, the second unit anchor when Luka sits. The Lakers' offense needs to keep functioning. last season that was one of their ugliest problems? Their answer was Colin Sexton. Sexton has built his career around one thing, scoring, and he has gotten significantly more efficient at it. Last year, split between Charlotte and Chicago, he averaged 15.4 points and better than 40% from 3 on 48, 5% from the field overall. That outside shot has quietly become one of the best parts of his game. He has shot better than 39% from 3 in every season since 2022-23. He gives the bench another genuine scoring threat, creates his own shot, and takes some of the playmaking load that disappeared with LeBron. And as a bonus, Sexton and Kessler already spent multiple seasons together in Utah. Neither one is starting from zero. Sandro Mamukelashvili, frontcourt spacing. Kessler handles the interior. The frontcourt still needed a forward who could complement him offensively, stretch the floor, and give the rotation genuine depth. That is where Sandro Mamukelashvili comes in, signed to a 4-year, $52 million deal. Last season he averaged 11.2 points, 4.9 rebounds on 52% shooting and 38.9% from 3, finishing 6th in 6th Man of the Year voting. In his 13 starts, those numbers jumped to 15.9 points, better than 2 made threes per game on 41.4% from deep, and 56% from the field overall. He stretches the floor, attacks closeouts, and gives the Lakers the ability to play two bigs without killing their spacing. Something the roster desperately needed. Cameron Carr, draft pick, future piece. The theme of the entire offseason showed up in the draft too. The Lakers selected Cameron Carr at 24th overall, a 6'5" guard with athleticism, shot-making ability, and real defensive upside. He scored at all 3 levels in college and immediately flashed it in Summer League, dropping 19 points with 5 threes in the opener against Golden State and then 26 points in a comeback win over Miami. Whether he contributes this year or develops over the next couple of seasons, the pick points in the same direction as every other move. They are building for